Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Anthony Mancuso, and I'm joined by Josiah Hedy and Parag Desai. And the three of us are Power Platform Technology Specialists here at Microsoft, and we are so excited to be bringing you today's topic of Microsoft Copilot Studio. For those of you that registered for the webinar some 3-4 weeks ago when we initially created it, you probably remember it being branded as Power Virtual Agents. And since the great announcements at Microsoft Ignite, we've seen the transition now into Microsoft Copilot Studio, and we're very excited to be some of the first to bring you some educational content on what is new and great in the Copilot Studio and how you can go out and start creating today. Now, before we jump in, I do want to cover just a couple of housekeeping items in terms of how today's webinar is going to work. First and foremost, you'll probably notice that this is not a one-to-one event. Rather, this is being made available to multiple Microsoft customers. What does that mean for you? Well, things like your name, your email address, your avatar could be visible to other people within the webinar. If you aren't comfortable with this, please feel free to drop now and we could follow up one-on-one after today's session. Next here, I want to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our brand new Power Platform U YouTube page. So if you go search that, you could subscribe to our YouTube page. We will be uploading this webinar a few days after today's session. Lastly here, I want to talk about getting questions answered. You probably see that you can't turn your microphone on, your video on, and you don't even have access to the chat. Well, you'll probably notice in your top navigation that we're leveraging within Teams the Q&A feature where we have a live panel who is answering questions as they come in. So please feel free to drive your questions into that Q&A area that you see at the top of your Teams meeting here. We will get those questions answered as they come in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's content of Microsoft Copilot Studio. So before we jump too deep into what the product is and all the great new features and functionality, I want to spend some time getting grounded in why Microsoft Copilot exists. And the answer is simple. The future is conversational. And I know you're thinking, Anthony, sounds really cool, but what in the world does that even mean? Well, let's talk a little bit about what Gartner is predicting we'll be experiencing as enterprises in 2026. Some of these numbers may surprise you. First, by 2026, 30% of work activities will be conversationally enabled, meaning I can use my natural language conversationally to handle work activities that might have otherwise been manual or mundane. Gartner also predicts that within contact centers specifically, agent labor costs are expected to be reduced by $80 billion by leveraging conversational artificial intelligence. In fact, we're already seeing a lot of this happening with a large number of enterprise customers we work with daily. Lastly, by 2026, it's predicted that 80% of organizations' digital experiences will be driven by virtual people through tools like generative AI. And we know this, and Gartner predicts this, because of the growth and adoption we're seeing of tools like ChatGPT for generative AI. Now, if you ever had any doubt about the prominence of tools like ChatGPT, take a look at this chart of some of the most significant strides in technology in recent years and how long it took them to reach 100 million users. Mobile phones, for instance, took 16 years from their inception to reaching 100 million users. The internet, 7 years. Facebook, 4.5 years. But ChatGPT? It took ChatGPT 3 months. 3 months to go from inception to 100 million users. And think of the significance of some of the technologies you're seeing on this chart. To even be in the same camp as mobile phones and the internet, it's clear. Generative AI technology is here, and it's going to seismically shift the way we work. Now, it goes without saying that up until this point, building conversational AI has not been easy. In the past, like a lot of professionally developed software tools, companies struggled with things like budget and time constraints. security and compliance, making sure that your data stays with you and isn't training any external AI models. They struggled with integration with business systems. What good is conversational AI unless it can interact with your data or public data? And not to mention hosting all the necessary resources for these tools. And part of that problem was building conversational AI has never traditionally been as accessible as it is today. Very specialized data scientists and pro developers were the only resources capable of getting tools like this built. But today, we're challenging that. Because hear me out. What if we had the ability to enable anyone to build conversational AI tools? Ask yourself, what would they create? What business problems might they solve for? How would they help their community? How could they change the way the world works? We asked ourselves the same questions and came to the realization that there's really only one way to find out. Which brings us to Microsoft Copilot. Copilot is conversational AI wherever you work across the Microsoft cloud. Need help responding to a tough customer email? Copilot is there to draft the reply for you. Can't figure out the perfect design for the proposal you're building out in PowerPoint? Copilot is there to build out your design. Can't figure out how to write the code needed to extract data from a complex array? Copilot is there to write the code for you. As you could see, we're at a point in time where wherever you work in the Microsoft cloud, Copilot is there to make your life easier. Now, we know these Copilot tools are natively powerful, but aren't always a one-size-fits-all. And that's what brings us to today's topic of extending these Microsoft Copilots to get even richer experiences with conversational AI in your organization. So I'd like to jump over to Josiah now to talk a little bit about Microsoft's Copilot Studio. Josiah, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. And I'm really excited to be able to talk today about Copilot Studio at a bit of a deeper dive. In general, in the past, we've heard about copilots that come out to solve specific scenarios and use cases, but we're really excited to show how Microsoft Copilot Studio is that next step. So let's watch a quick video and then we'll dive into some of the differentiators. So in that video, we're able to see how Microsoft Copilot Studio could be used to create some of these copilots. And why we're so excited today is the ability to create those copilots across the entire Microsoft digital real estate that you have today. This allows a lot of options when it comes to pulling in data that's relevant for your different scenarios while providing the prompts that you want in place to really guide that data to give the best outcome possible. And by being able to have a hyper connected platform, whether that's your M365, Azure OpenAI, or any of the Power Platform plugin or connectors, we can start expanding the overall coverage that we have today to be able to ensure that we create copilots that can help solve the exact issue with the right data at the right touch point at the right time. And being able to manage that in one consolidated area is a really quite exciting option instead of having to go to each of the copilots to maintain and tweak. And that's one of the biggest differences in the way that this is built. In the past, we've had different copilots for those different use cases. So whether that's Copilot for M365, Sales Copilot, or the Power Platform Copilots, I feel like any conversation with a customer was, which Copilot are we talking about again? And so it's tough to be able to give a consolidated one-stop shop to be able to manage those. And that's why Microsoft Copilot Studio is so exciting. We can start extending those first-party copilots that we already have and know today, or we can build our own custom copilots and surface them where we need them. So in Teams, we can start tapping into some of that, let's say, Salesforce data to be able to interact with it in ways that we may not have been able to in the past. And I think one thing that comes with this territory is as we're talking about tapping into generative AI across our entire Microsoft digital real estate and a lot of connectors, well, how's this secured? As we're talking about Copilot, we want to make sure that we call out the AI safety and security is built into the framework that we've used to be able to leverage any of these features. So, as we've noted in the past, any of the generative models are in your tenant to ensure that you're not training any public model and to ensure that you have full access, control, and visibility into the data that's being leveraged or being kind of called to within those models. So you know exactly how your data is being handled and where it's going. So it really just helps you have that extra level of control on how these are built out. And it helps to ensure that you have added filtering and added protections to ensure your Copilot does exactly what you need it to. And we see that this type of approach helps us to deliver Copilot Studio at a holistic level, where we can build an end to end Copilot building experience to deliver world class experiences across the board, whether that's the UX, whether that's the automation, or security. We want to make sure that you're in control and able to tap into these new exciting generative models all along the way. Now, I know I'm quite excited for it, but I'm really excited to be able to see the demo Parag has available and ready for us. So, Parag, when you're ready, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Josiah. So before we look at the Copilot Studio, let's understand the impact of generative AI on bot building industry. So prior to generative AI, traditional bot building approach had two major challenges. First, the bot builders would have to anticipate every possible question that end users might ask in order to design the conversational flow. This was not possible in every single scenario, given the sheer volume that was needed for chatbot, which also means that the coverage or the scope of your chatbot was very limited since we needed manual effort in designing the conversational flows or topics. The second big challenge was keeping the bot updated to reflect any changes that were made to the underlying data set or to reflect any changes that were needed based on end user feedback. Every time there was a need to change something, your technical team would have to update the configuration and take the bot through entire SDLC process again, which could be time consuming and resource intensive experience. Now, with generative AI, we are able to solve for both these problems by simply allowing you to point your chatbot to your existing data source. This eliminates the need for creation of topics or conversational flow, and also eliminates the need for maintaining these flows in future. So if there's any change that is made to the underlying data set, or if there's any change that is needed based on users' feedback, the bot would be able to directly pick up all the updates that are made to underlying data sets, since we are not creating any manual topics. So with generative AI in Copilot Studio, your bot is able to answer any question right out of the box on day one, which really cuts down the deployment time, allowing your team to automate more tasks and also drive digital experience using conversational AI. So now let's understand the three core generative AI features that are available in Copilot Studio. First, we have generative answers. So this feature allows you to connect your bot to an existing data source like your public website or a SharePoint site or a OneDrive location or any Azure data storage. The bot will be able to leverage the data from this data source to respond to users' utterance and reason over this data. With this bot feature, your bot is operational right out of the box and eliminates the need to design for any topics or conversational flows. The next feature is called generative action. This is based on LangChain or semantic kernel concept, where your bot will be able to understand the intent of user's question and dynamically build the conversational flow during runtime to provide any response that is needed, and also act on the information using plugins. Plugins are nothing but predefined or pre-built connectors that are available within Copilot Studio. You could also create your own Power Automate flows. You can design your own conversational topics and use them as plugins in order to perform any actions that is needed for your chatbot. And lastly, the third feature is the generative building feature, which allows you to use natural language to design topics. This is very useful for use cases where you might have to design topics to allow more granular control, and also have your business team author the responses that are shown to the user. Next, in addition to these three core generative AI features in Copilot Studio, Copilot Studio also allows you to build your own custom Copilot that is tailored to your specific use case using your own data. The Copilot also can be used to extend your M365 Copilot, which would allow your employees to search and act on your organizational data that is sitting outside of Microsoft ecosystem. For example, if you have data in Salesforce or ServiceNow or any on-prem data sources, you could extend your M365 Copilot using Copilot Studio to allow access to any of these data sources that are outside Microsoft's cloud. So let's look at how Copilot can empower and enhance your team's productivity. So there are three key areas where Copilot can help your team or your employees. First, it can assist your employees to find organizational data or information quickly to complete their task. Next, your employees can use Copilot to analyze that data and also generate new insight. And finally, your employees can leverage Copilot to take action on that data using plugins, all using a multi-turn conversational kind of experience. So with that, now let's look at the new Copilot Studio and understand how to create your own Copilot and how you can extend an existing M365 Copilot for your specific use case. So you can launch the Copilot Studio by navigating to web.powerva.microsoft.com, which will bring you to the homepage of Copilot Studio. So on the homepage, you can see all your recent Copilots that you have created. You can also start creating a new Copilot from here. If you want to see all the Copilots available in this specific environment, you can click on Copilots and it will show you all the Copilots that are available within this specific environment. Next, we have plugins. So plugins, there are two types of plugins. We have Power Platform components that can be exposed as AI plugins. And then we also have OpenAI plugins. So any GPTs that you might have created on OpenAI platform can be imported here using manifest file directly, so that your Copilot can access any plugin that was created on OpenAI platform. For Power Platform components, there are three options. So you can create your own custom prompt that performs a specific action, and then use that prompt as a plugin within your Copilot. You can create your own Power Automate flows, and then use these flows as plugins within your Copilot. And then lastly, you can use the pre-built connectors that would allow you to connect to any of your on-prem data sources, or any third-party platforms like ServiceNow, Salesforce, etc., using the pre-built connectors. So these are the three options that you have, and you can, depending on your use case, you can leverage one of these options to create your own plugin that you can use within your Copilot. Next, we have prompts. So those of you who are familiar with prompt would know how important prompts are when you are interacting with LLMs or generative AI models, since it directly impacts the quality of response you would get from the model. With that in mind, now within Copilot, we allow creation of prompts that can perform specific tasks. And then you also have ability of sharing these prompts with other team members within your organizations. So this would be your central repository of all the prompts that your organization creates to perform a specific task. And then based on use case, you can share these prompts with right team members. And lastly, we have models. So these are pre-trained models that are available within Copilot Studio, and you can use the right model depending on your use case. For example, if you are doing sentiment analysis, there's a pre-built model that you can leverage to do sentiment analysis. We also have model for doing OCR. We have model for doing classification. So depending on the type of your use case, you can choose the right model as part of your Copilot. So let's now go back to homepage and start by creating a new Copilot. So in this case, I will call my Copilot Power Platform Documentation Assistant. Documentation Power Platform Assistant. I'll keep the language as English, and then for generative answers, I am going to point my Copilot to Power Platform documentation website. So this is the website which is in public domain, and I'm using this as my primary source for generative answers. So I'll click on create, and this will start creating my Copilot. So now that our custom Copilot is created, you can see here it's called Power Platform Assistant. I can start testing right from here. So if I ask what is Power Automate, it will use the website that we configured as data source and provide a concise response along with reference to the original data source. So you can see here, it is able to provide me a response along with citation reference. Same way, if I ask what is Power Apps, it will find answer using the website that we have configured, and also provide reference to the original website where it found that information. You can also see that I am able to track the conversational flow. In this case, it's using the conversational boosting topic to find answers from that website that we configured. So now that we know that this is working fine, let's explore all the other features that we have within Copilot Studio. So this is a scenario where we are creating a custom Copilot. I can click on topics, and this will show me all the topics that are available within this custom Copilot. So here I can start creating new topics. I can also define plugins for this Copilot, or I can create conversational AI plugins for extending my Microsoft M365 plugins. So let's start by first creating a new plugin. So I'll go to add, I'll click on plugin action, and I'll create a plugin that allows me to search for weather information. So if I type weather, you can see these are all the pre-built connectors that we have, and I'm going to choose get current weather. That's the pre-built connector that we have. So I'll configure this. You can see here it has two inputs, location and unit. So let's edit that. So it's going to ask user for location. I'll say, please provide the location to search for weather information. For the units, I'll set a value so that it's not prompting user to choose the unit. So in this case, I'll just select Celsius. And then let's look at this. And then I can save. And for output, I can save the weather condition as my output. And I do want AI to dynamically send the message telling me the weather information for the location that I choose. So in this case, I have configured my first plugin. I'll click on finish, and it's going to configure this plugin right from here. Okay, so now that we have this plugin created, the next step is to create a topic that will use that plugin. So in this case, I'll create a new topic. I'll call this topic weather information. And I want it to be triggered when user is asking for weather information, or when user is asking the bot for weather forecast. And once I have the trigger phrases configured, I'll go to call and action. And then within call and action, I want to leverage the plugin we just created. So with that, you can see here, we have a simple weather information topic that is going to be triggered when user is asking about weather information or weather forecast. And then it's going to leverage the plugin that we just created in order to provide me the weather information. So now that we have the weather information topic completed, I can say, I can ask what is the weather forecast for New York. And you can see the bot is able to provide me the weather information. Same way I can say, what is the current weather in Chicago? And you can see the bot is going to use the plugin to provide me the latest weather information. So this is how we can leverage existing connectors. So we have 1100 plus connectors that you can use to connect with any external data sources as well as your on-prem data sources. Next, we'll look at how we can extend the data source for this Copilot. So right now, the only data source that we have connected is the Power Platform website. I also want to upload a document that has information about my HR policy. So I can come here within generative AI configuration and then click on this button and upload a Word document that has HR policies. So you can see the document has been uploaded. And what I'm going to do is I only want to use this document as a data source when users are asking about internal HR policies. So I'll go back to my topic. I'll create a new topic from blank. And I want this topic to be triggered when users are asking about HR policy, internal policy, or compliance policy. So you can add different trigger phases based on your use case. But since I'm dealing with HR policies, I'm going to use these 3 trigger phrases to trigger HR policy topic. And what I want this topic to do is use the generative answers node that will connect to the document I just uploaded. So I'm passing the user's question as the input, and this data source is going to leverage the document I just uploaded here. And then I want the topic to send a message once it has found the information within the document. So now that we have configured this, I'll save this topic and refresh here so that we can start testing again. So before we start testing this, let me just show you the document I just uploaded. So you can see this is a Word document, and it has some frequently asked questions about travel policy and credit card policy for our organization here. So let me ask questions related to charges that go on corporate Amex card. So in this case, if I go back and I say what charges should go on our corporate Amex card based on our HR policies, the Copilot will use that document to find the answer, and you can see it's able to answer the question and also provide a citation reference from where to show where it got that answer from, which is coming from the document we just uploaded. Same way, if I ask question around travel policy for booking travel for my spouse through corporate travel website, it will find an answer and tell me that you are only allowed to book travel for employee and for business purpose only. So this is an example of how you can connect your Copilot to your HR policies or any documents that you might want to use as part of your Copilot within Copilot Studio. So now that I've shown you how you can connect your Copilot to a website or connect it to documents that you can upload within your Copilot chatbot, let's look at some of the other options that you have here on the left side. So next would be entities. So entities are of 2 types. We have predefined entities that are configured out of box on the platform, and you can use these entities to extract the information you need from users' utterance. So for example, if I want to extract age from user's question, I can leverage this entity. Same way, if I want to extract city from user's utterance, then I can leverage this entity here. You can also create your own custom entities. So for your specific use case, if you want to extract specific information from user's question, you can create your own custom closed entity. The next step here is the generative AI configuration. So here you can see all the data sources that we have configured. So you can see the website that we configured. You can also see the document that we uploaded here. There's some other configuration around, content moderation. So you can choose the moderation level for your Copilot. depending on your use case. So all your generative AI configuration is going to be on generative AI tab. The next tab is the analytics tab. So here you can see summary of all the conversations that are happening within this Copilot that we have created. So you can see what topics are getting triggered, which plugins are getting triggered, how many questions are going unanswered, how many questions are using boosting or generative answers capability. You can also get metrics around sessions and billing. So all that information is out of the box, and you can use this to optimize your chatbot once you have deployed this in production. Publishing allows you to publish the bot to different channels. So if you click on go to channels, you can see these are all the channels that are supported right out of the box. You can publish it to Teams. You can use it to extend your M365 Copilot. If you have a custom website and you want to deploy the bot on your custom website, you have that option as well. So these are all the channels that are supported out of the box. Depending on your use case, you can also use direct line if you're using it in a headless kind of design pattern. Next is the new capabilities that we just announced during Ignite. So now you have option of extending your Copilot, M365 Copilot, to allow your M365 Copilot to talk to your organizational data or data that's sitting outside Microsoft Cloud. So there are two types of plugins that you can create here in order to extend your M365 Copilot. So the first one is the conversational plugins. So conversational plugins would allow you to create your own topic. So in this case, you can see here, I can create a topic which allows employees. So I can say this topic allows employees to find holidays for FY24. So this topic I'm creating so that the employees can find information around holidays that are scheduled for FY24. So same way I can design the experience here, and I can provide the list here. If I say Jan 1st, New Year, December 25th, Christmas. So I can create the, or I can build the flow here, and this topic will then be used by M365 Copilot when user wants to find information around holidays that are scheduled for FY24. So this is how I would design the conversational plugins that can be leveraged by M365 Copilot. The next type of plugins are AI plugins. So AI plugins are prompts that you can design that can be used to perform specific actions. So in my case, I already have this prompt that I have created, which allows me to summarize email information. Same way, if I had to create a new one, I can come here and I can say, create a new plugin. So in this case, I will call this text summarization. And I can either start from scratch, or I can use one of the existing templates that I have. So you can see I can use one of the existing template in order to summarize text, and I can also test it right here. So if I looked for New York City history, I'll just use this for summarizing. So if I copy all this information and put it here, then I should be able to test the prompt I just created. So it will now use all this data and provide me with a summarized response. So you can see my prompt is working correctly, and now I can save this prompt, which can now be used with my M365 Copilot every time there's a need to do any kind of summarization, I can use this pre-designed prompt. Next, I'll quickly go through some of the settings here. So here within settings, you can change the name. You can configure application insights in order to do the monitoring. You can log all your activities. This pretty much allows you to create a dashboard so that you can monitor everything that's happening within your Copilot that you have designed. You can also bring external CLU, conversational language model, if you don't want to use the native NLU model that's configured within Copilot Studio. You can also bring in your Azure OpenAI models to do the summarization. You can also bring your own Copilot SDK in order to extend your PBA bot. This next step shows all the channels that are available to you in use cases where you want to configure handoff to live agent. You have options to do that as well. You can directly configure that using a Dynamics 365 omnichannel configuration, or if you're using a different vendor for live chat, you can create your own custom engagement hub to enable handoff to live agents. Next, we have all the security configurations here. You can authenticate the user if your use case requires authenticating. You can also configure any channel level security using this configuration. Next, you can bring your own natural language understanding model. So it ships with the default Copilot Studio NLU model. But if you have your own CLU models that you have created, you are able to integrate those here and then use those language models to do things like entity extraction, intent recognition, etc. We also support multiple languages, so your bot can have additional secondary languages. So in my case, I chose English as my primary language, but I have option to also add other languages as secondary languages. So you can have a single bot that can interact in different languages depending on your use case, especially if you're designing Copilot for global audience and you want to do localization. You can add specific languages depending on the region. And with that, I will conclude the Copilot Studio overview for today. If you have any questions or want to schedule one-on-one discussion, please reach out to any one of us or contact your WizApp SSP. With that, I will hand it back to Josiah to outline next steps your organization can take to build your own Copilot. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Parag, and a fantastic demo. So, as we're wrapping up, we want to make sure we provide a few links and resources to you. So, here on the screen, you'll see a few that I want to call out. First is the aka.ms/try Copilot Studio. This lets you go ahead and get hands on with everything we've shown today, just to get an idea of what it looks like, how we can go about building it. And Copilot Studio website will let you see kind of an overview, very similar to what we did today, but a little bit higher level. So I'd recommend sticking to the blogs, and the blogs allow you to keep up to date as new features are coming. As this is a newly announced product, we're going to have a lot of features and a lot of announcements around it coming soon. So I highly recommend following that blog. And then product documentation and the community page, I would make sure to bookmark along the way. The community is often a great way to find answers or even share answers that you found as you're building out your Copilot experiences. And the product documentation just helps you kind of get an idea of an overall building path of, hey, I want this functionality. How could I build that out? And then the last is the Ignite on demand session. So if you want to see a little bit more of that, kind of a bit of a further demo, Ignite has a great on demand session from that. Before we wrap, we wanted to give a quick sneak peek of Copilot for Service. We won't be able to dive into it today, but we wanted to call out that Copilot for Service really helps to highlight that our first party copilots are still something that's very much on the radar. And as we're building them out, you can extend them with Copilot Studio. And Copilot for Service allows us to have our agents assist our customers anywhere they work by being able to tap into our large wealth of knowledge in various areas. So whether that's Salesforce, Zendesk, D365, or ServiceNow, being able to have consolidated, generated answers to help our agents streamline their experience is vital. And we're really excited for that to be coming down the road. So keep an eye out for any announcements around this and a following webinar right afterwards. But the last thing is a thank you. I know we covered a lot of material today, and you probably heard the word Copilot more than you ever expected to hear it in your life. But with that, we're excited to be able to showcase this right as soon as we could. And as Parag mentioned earlier, if you have any questions that you want to do a deeper dive session on, feel free to reach out to any of us or any of your account team to get a bit more hands on with how this could help you realize a lot of value across a lot of different teams and plug into the wider Copilot experience here at Microsoft. Now, with all that said, again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.